Alright, so in today's video we're going to be sealing up the valve cover gasket on this 97 or 98 quadrunner 250. On pretty much all of these, it doesn't matter if it's Suzuki or Yamaha, a lot of them for these valve covers, they don't really have a gasket for them. It's just, you just use RTV or gasket maker. They're supposed to be a machine fit, so it just needs a little bit of that sealant in there, and it keeps it from leaking. This four-wheeler is having some issues with running. Everything else seems pretty good, but it is leaking in here. So there is a possibility that since it's leaking oil out, it could be sucking air in, and that'll cause a change in the positive crankcase pressure. And usually a lot of that stuff needs to be pretty precise for everything, so if it's off, it could throw off how it runs. Because this four-wheeler, once you get it started, it runs great, but it doesn't exactly like to idle, and it doesn't like to start on its own. Usually you have to push it or pull it behind another four-wheeler and it starts right up. But basically the first steps to doing this is you'll just take out all the bolts that are holding on the valve cover, which with the four-wheeler, this right here is your valve cover. You can see this line right here, that's the seam, and that's where it's leaking from. You can see it. If it'll focus. Focus on my finger, please. You can pretty much see it. But we'll just undo all these bolts. They're all 10 millimeter. They all should be pretty loose, so you don't want to use air tools on them. And you just do it all by hand. And when you go to take it off, you'll just want to make sure if there's any other gasket sealer on there, if there's any left over, to clean it all nice and clean. And then put a lightly apply it all the way around, and then put it back on. And then when you go to tighten these bolts, it's recommended to wait, to just barely snug them up, and then wait 8 to 9 hours, and then tighten them the rest of the way. But for today, we're just gonna send it all the way and just let it do its thing. If it becomes a problem, then I'll just redo it. But whenever you're tightening up these bolts, you want to make sure there is a torque spec for them, just like anything. If you look it up, you can probably find it, but usually just kind of go as tight as when they were coming out. Usually just snug quarter turn. But yeah, so we'll get this off and then show you what it looks like inside of there. Okay, so as you can see, we got the valve cover out, and if you look underneath it, you can kind of see some of the old RTV material, that light gray stuff. That's the old stuff there. What we're going to do is clean it all off, and then we'll also clean it off on the cylinder. You can see in there what it looks like with these Suzukis, and also a lot of Yamahas. They have a cam overhead, and there you can see it, the cam on top of the head with the valve stem springs. And in this case, it's not exactly like, it's still kind of called a valve cover. It's not exactly a valve cover though, because you're I mean, I guess it still is, but it's different than like your normal cars, because your actual rockers are inside. You can see here, these are kind of worn pretty good actually, especially on the intake side. And then when you take these off, when I took this one off, just like I take off most things, I left the bolts in there. And then what I like to do is orient it a certain way, so this is oriented the same way it came out. And then I have all the bolts stacked exactly where they came out, so you can see these two go in the center, two over here, and then the rest of these line up with the rest of them. So what we'll do is we'll clean up the two mating surfaces, and then once we get the two mating surfaces cleaned up, we'll put some RTV on it and put it back on there. Like I said, usually you're supposed to let it sit, but we're just gonna put it all the way, and then Also, one thing, if you ever need to check the valve lash, these little caps right here, they come off, and as you can see, that's the back side of that cap that you can reach you can reach it there at the end of it to adjust the valve lash if need be. But I don't think we're going to worry about that. We may check it after we put the RTV. It'll change it some. But yeah, I'll see you in the. Alrighty, so as you can see, we got the valve cover back on, and as you can see, that line, that evenly little line of the RTV that we put. Basically, what you want to do, and that's the same with any head or anything that you're bolting on, you want to start from the center and then just work your way out from the center outward to make sure everything is evenly pressed. And you don't want to tighten one all the way down and then the next one all the way down. You just want to kind of snug them all up around. Like I said, there's most likely a torque spec, probably like 7 or 8 or 10 inch pounds or foot pounds. But you just do it snug, especially like an old bike like this. It doesn't matter too much. This one's my personal bike, so like I said, also we're not going to wait the 8 or 9 hours like you're supposed to. I'm just going to tighten up and let it do its thing. Once everything dries up, I might see about trying to check the valve lash just in case, just because of the wear and everything. But I don't really hear too much of a clanking noise. But if I get the chance, I'll check it. And if you want to see a video on that, just leave a comment, let me know. But I do believe that is it for this video. Definitely be expecting more videos on this bike, as well as other projects. I guess just a quick little recap of this four-wheeler. Like I said before, it's either a 97 or a 98 quadrunner 250. It's just like the 300 King Quad, except it's got a smaller motor, and also the front wheelbase is a lot narrower. But if you look, if you've seen a quadrunner before, this one has a different front end. Normally the axle, it's got a U-joint here, and then a half shaft CV axle that kind of slides into the U-joint. But when I got the four-wheeler, one of the CV on this side actually, the half shaft was broke and the CV axle was broke, so it was only 3-wheel drive. And of course, playing around with it and stuff with 3-wheel drive, you definitely have moments when you need the fourth tire to spin. But we went ahead. I had that same four-wheeler that I was talking about that I got the frame on, or the frame from, for doing the Model A frame extension. I got all the same parts. That was from a 300. The CV axles are longer and obviously different, but where they mount into the differential, it's the same. And then as well as the differential is also the same. So what we went ahead and did is took all the A-arms and the CV axle out of this one, and then put all the 300 stuff, as well as the tie rod ends and the little knuckle hub part. I kept the 250 shocks. They are just slightly shorter, as well as if you can look, there's a gap in the spacing there, just because they are different, but the top, they mount the same. I just haven't changed them over. I may or may not, just depending. If you also look, you can tell how much wider it is. Normally the tires are tucked into the frame or into the fenders. As well as if you look at the rear fenders, when I got the four-wheeler, it didn't come with, well, the guy had the rear fenders that came with it, but they were completely cracked and destroyed and pretty much useless. And these are actually the front fenders from that other four-wheeler, that parts four-wheeler. And the reason why I put these fronts on and not the rears is because that one also didn't come with the rears. So I went ahead and just made these front ones work on the rear, and it works out pretty good. The tires stick out still, but that's honestly not really because of how small the tire is or how small the fender is. These tires are pretty meaty. It's my hand for comparison. But yeah, like I said, it is having some running issues. Well, after this, we'll let it dry, and then tomorrow I'm gonna see if it makes any differences. If not, just keep looking down the line of things. But yeah, if you like the video, drop a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.